So we usually just start with an introduction of a minute and give us who you are and why you're running, and then we'll go right into the questions. So we'll start with Ms. Pena. We'll take turns who goes first and second.
Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Alice Pena, and I'm a candidate for Commissioner District 9. I have been an advocate in the community for many years, and I feel that it is very opportune now to enter the race. People are asking for reform and changes, and I think I can bring that to the county.
Thank you.
My name is Dennis Lawson. I'm the current county commissioner. I've been in service since 1993. Former chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, and I've held a number of different leadership roles in the county throughout the course of the year. I have a track record of getting things done in the district, bringing resources and projects that the community has been promised in the past, making sure that those things are delivered. And again, there are some additional things that I like to do going forward, and that's the reason why I'm running again for re-election this year.
Great. So we'll start with the budget, because it's budget season and the mayor has just delivered his budget, and of course you've already had some of those discussions. You're going to be weighing in on a next budget if you were to be elected. Do you support the mayor's budget, or do you think that there's a need to, how would you change the balance between the needs for services and the taxpayers not wanting to pay more in property taxes at these tough times? So we'll start with you, Commissioner.
Well, of course, I supported the mayor's budget. I voted for his recommended budget, if you will, and clearly understanding that, during these economic times, that the community is hurting, and even though I believe that we're in the process of healing and moving forward, I did not feel it was time to raise taxes, at this time. I still have a concern, though, for unincorporated Miami-Dade County in terms of the services that are basically being able to be provided there, and that's a function of basically the tax base that is allocated, through unincorporated Miami-Dade County as compared to other cities, and City is a huge city here in Miami-Dade County. So again, I support the mayor's budget, recommended budget. I want to take a look at our employees going forward. The mayor has set aside some resources within the budget to take a look at the 4% additional costs that basically we took out of the employees' salaries last year. So that's something I want to take a look at going forward.
Yes, Ms. Pena.
Well, again, this is the reason why I have been involved in this race. The waste and mismanagement has not been addressed, and that is of critical concern. The voters have spoken very loud and clear on this issue. I applaud the mayor for introducing a slight reduction in taxes as opposed as to what was done the year before, where there was an increase and following a revocation of the mayor. So these are things that we need to look at very carefully.
When you talk of waste and mismanagement, could you give an example of what you see is still lingering in the budget?
Well, we have to look at what has happened during the past few years. We've seen billions of dollars being spent on projects that have not benefited our taxpayers. We have seen where conglomerates and big corporations from out of state have come in to work on these projects. Many have not produced the jobs locally that would have been desired.
Give us a project or two. What projects are you talking about specifically?
Specifically, well, the Marlin Stadium. Let's talk about that. And it's pretty much across the board, where you have projects that end up costing twice or more what was originally estimated. It was estimated at about $200 million, and it ended up costing over $400 million.
Oh, over the years as
over
they
the
started.
years. So we have to incentivize these corporations, these entities that are working on these projects, to make them complete their projects within a reasonable time, and if not have taxpayers pay the consequences.
If anything, the stadium's going to come in probably a little under what they expected it to cost.
No, it did not.
I mean,
According to my figures.
they came up with their $515 million number, and they seem to have met that number.
Well, the figures that I have are that it went above what was originally estimated. They received a loan for about $35 million, which they're repaying a sort of loan.
But wasn't that all, that was all in the contractual agreement?
Well, that's what happened, what was negotiated. They're getting all of the concession monies.
Okay.
We're not getting any of that back.
Let me ask about the county's failing sewer system. The feds have gotten involved, said, got to do something. What should the county do in order to raise the gazillions of funds that this is going to take? And I'll start with, who did we start with before? Ms. Pena, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. This has to be looked in very carefully. Everything has to be well planned. We have to make sure that we are going to be negotiating with the people that are going to be involved in a manner where we are going to plan an additional to cover everything that has to come up, that will come up, and that we allocate the funds that are necessary.
Where's that money going to come from?
Well, we have to see how much are we talking about, how many people are involved in this, and what needs to be done. It may be a special tax assessment. It's not off the table.
You would support a tax
I
assessment?
would support it if it is warranted.
Mr. Moss?
Yes. Well, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to raise the rates eventually to cover the cost of the debt to make the improvements to the system. However, right now, in terms of the mood of the community, the mood of the commission, I don't see that happening. And what I believe is going to happen is what we've been doing in the past, and that is negotiating with the regulators, trying to work out issues, trying to push the issue out into the future a little bit to give the community and the economy an opportunity to heal. We have some of the lowest rates in water and sewer rates in the entire country, and that's one reason why we find ourselves in the position that we're in today. And eventually, we're going to have to raise those rates in order to put in the capital infrastructure that we need and to make the repairs that we need.
Is that environmentally wise to have to really push it out?
It's not environmentally wise, but what I'm speaking to is the reality of what I see happening on the county commission. And I wish that this wasn't a discussion, that I was having today. But we have a conservative commission that, when it comes down to raising anything, the answer is, pretty much no, whether it's taxes, whether it's water and sewer rates and those kinds of things. That shouldn't be the way things are, but I'm just speaking of the reality that I see being a member of the board. And certainly I support it. Let's raise the rates and do what we need to do in order to go on ahead and to do the infrastructure improvements that we need.
Let me change the subject to Jackson. Do you think Jackson should be turned into some sort of nonprofit entity like the one that, with an independent board, like the one in Tampa or Broward?
Well, I believe that what we're seeing happening in Jackson today is a turnaround. You've got a new CEO, you've got the Financial Recovery Board that's basically in place, and they are basically moving forward with changes within the system that I think are good. There's a perception somehow that the county commission is involved in the day-to-day operation of Jackson, and that's just simply not the case. Even when you look at the budgetary process that we go through, very seldom is Jackson even talked about during the budgeting process, because again, the commission has been pretty much supportive of what the former board used to do, and now the current Financial Recovery Board is doing there. They are in the process of working through a number of issues, trying to prepare themselves to transition, because of the new health care laws that are going to basically, come into place. And I believe that we're heading in the right direction. I mean, if we can't continue the progress that I see going on right now, then maybe at that point we may have a different governance model. But right now, I believe that Jackson is moving in the right direction.
haven't seen their reports, their final recommendations, but I think it is important that we allow them to proceed with their analysis and put a very short time frame on this to make sure that we do move forward and have this resolved as expeditiously as possible. We need experts in this, accountants, financial experts, in addition to people specialized in the health and hospital business.
Well, we have that with Migoya.
We have that, but we have not had all the components to make sure that, I think it's been kind of a little lopsided, and I think that we may see that with this new committee.
The Charter Review Commission has made it easier for cities to annex unincorporated areas, but it has pretty much maintained the requirements for annexation. What do you think of that, Ms. Pena?
So we're talking about the annexation requirements are actually a little tougher than incorporation would be. So, and of course, this is in the news because it just came up, the recommendations of the Charter Review Commission, so.
Right. We've seen things that have worked very well in Doral, Pinecrest, and other areas. So this is possibly a good way to resolve a lot of the issues. Smaller government, more local, and it does not work across the board. It'll have to be analyzed per situation.
Right. I mean, not just speaking for myself, but I do live in an unincorporated area, but I hear it from a lot of other people.
Right.
They're not crazy about incorporating or being
Absolutely.
annexed.
Absolutely.
And some of
Every
it
area
seems
is
to make it easier.
Right. Well, it has to be analyzed and specific to the area.
I'm not in favor of the current, charter review recommendation because at the end of the day, I believe you need to have a referee on the field. I mean, this is kind of like opening it up and it's a free fall, and annexation really wasn't addressed, during the process. My mindset is evolving and has changed. I'm more open to looking at the issue of incorporation going forward. And I say that because I see, that there appears to be a little bit of a move afoot, and I just want to make sure the residents of District 9 don't get left behind, and that areas aren't cherry-picked. At the end of the day, what you end up with in unincorporated Miami-Dade County, are areas that are not able to sustain themselves. So I'm open to looking at the idea, but again, I don't support the Charter Review Task Force position because you need to have a referee on the field. The commission needs to be involved in the process. Who's going to determine when you have boundary disputes? I mean, so there's a lot of issues that really need to be addressed going forward.
Yeah, I was looking at my notes from the last time you were here, and you spoke much strongly against it at that time.
What's brought about a change? Is it, are there areas within your district where incorporation is you think might make sense, and where would those be?
Well, what has brought about the change is as I see the areas on the eastern side of US 1 who incorporated in the past, and I see, that, the whole issue about the falls and Kendall and, those things are starting to percolate a little bit at this particular point in time. What I don't want to have challenged is to have sections of my district picked off and cherry-picked, and then have the remainder of the district, basically be left to unincorporated Miami-Dade County, without having a tax base, if you will, to support it and to provide it with an opportunity to incorporate if it so should choose. But at the end of the day, if something happens, the residents would have to make that decision. If we're going to move toward incorporation, I want to make sure that my district is protected and that, again, we don't have areas in some of the most disadvantaged parts of the district to have those areas kind of left for Miami-Dade County to try and deal with. And that's a problem that you have to some degree in Broward County, where you've got areas that are incorporated, but you've got some areas that have been left over that nobody wants, and the county is basically there, trying to deal with those particular areas. And that's the reason why I also talked earlier, about having a concern about services. if your tax rate is the second lowest tax rate in the entire county as a municipality, then you can't expect to get the same level of services that you get in other areas. And so those are things that have to be looked at.
I agree with that.
Is there any part in the district where you're hearing, just specifically to you, as you go out there, that where people are discussing incorporation
Yes,
passionately?
it is being discussed, as he mentioned, on the eastern side. The discussions on the western side are divided. Some are for and some are against.
Well, we're almost running out of time, but I want to ask about destination resorts. That issue is not going away. Clearly, the legislature is going to have to deal with it in one fashion or another this coming session. If they permit a referendum locally and you were on the commission, do you think there should be a vote in Miami-Dade County? And if so, would you advocate for destination resorts?
There should be a vote. Voters should have the ultimate voice on this, and I probably would.
You probably would
Be
advocate
an
for
advocate, yes.
For people to vote? And what do you think of destination resorts as an idea?
Well, our tourism is our number one industry, and this certainly enhances that. So I would be an advocate of it.
Of the resorts themselves? Okay.
I support, the resorts moving forward. I would support, having the citizens have an opportunity to vote on it. I just simply believe that in Miami-Dade County that what we should be doing is we should be trying to attract those kinds of industries that have done well for communities throughout the country where it makes sense. And, when you bring in, those additional, whether it be theme parks, whether it be resort, casino gambling, those kinds of things, when you mix that with, the makeup, the diversity of this community, the sun, South Beach, the shopping, being in close proximity to South and Central America and the Caribbean, when you bring all those things together and you add what we have to offer that's unique to our community, I think it creates an opportunity for this community to really move forward as a world-class community, and that's what we're kind of focusing in on. But we've got to do it, with some sense of, some measure, if you will, to make sure that it operates properly and operates right. Gambling is here. It's all around us. I mean, you go to the High Line, to the dog track, to Seminole, the Miccosukee, you catch the boat, you go to the Bahamas. It is here. It's not going anywhere. And again, I just believe that is something that we need to, I would support embracing, but making sure that we do the very best that we can to make sure it's right for our community.
Now, another Charter Review Commission recommendation, term limits, which you support and you come around to, well, that's what the people want. The other issue is a salary, where they, this is be, I don't know what, the 14th time or whatever, but this time they looked at the median income instead of having it be the state formula, which is close to 90-some thousand. This would be closer to, I guess, around 45,000 for the median. And then the other item on there is essentially making sure that commissioners are not, and it's independent of any money, whether you get money or not, but have no family members or in no way working in anything that has to do with the county. Now, you work for a nonprofit, have for a long time, that does receive county funding. And I'm not sure as far as the Farm Bureau how that might work as well with county funding, but I'd like to get a sense of the salary and also the issue of whether commissioners should, be working at all. I'll start here.
Yeah, sure. I don't know what relation the Farm Bureau, because the Farm Bureau does no business with the county.
Okay.
And
gets no
funding.
Okay.
Absolutely no
That's.
funding.
I just wanted to make sure.
No, the Farm Bureau is simply an organization of farmers and people related to farming, and they have communication. They receive information as to what's going on in the farming community and how they're affected. They have absolutely no type of business. I'm sorry, the question?
Well, would you agree to not have, do you think that's a reasonable salary if it were full-time, the median wage of the county?
I don't think that $45,000 figure is reasonable for someone who is expected to have the responsibilities full-time of a commissioner. I think that that's just extending a little bit of the problem that exists right now. I think that a $6,000 salary is ridiculous, especially in today's these modern times. But again, we have had such dissatisfaction from our voters that time and time again it's been denied because there's little credibility as to the way things have been managed. And I think that with a budget of $800,000, that just reinforces what the feeling is of the voters.
The commissioner's office budget?
Is $800,000. So there's a total disconnect there. It has to be reasonable, and it has to be displayed and shown to the voters that the salary is earned and deserved.
Salary is, because obviously, I've been living it, for several years. The current salary is ridiculous. I don't believe that the $45,000 or whatever the number is that was thrown out is adequate, because what people want is they want a full-time commissioner who doesn't do any other, thing other than be a full-time commissioner. And you can't expect a full-time commissioner to do that on $45,000 in this day and time. I think it's just pushed out about 4 or 5 years. And what you're going to have is you'll have a certain group of individuals who have a certain amount of wealth, who will be able to operate in that particular environment, and others, who, could provide, good government, if you will, to the county, will be precluded from being a part of that process. So, again, something needs to be done in that area as it relates to should other individuals, who are related to commissioners, not have an opportunity for employment in the county. I don't think that's correct. As long as the county commissioner doesn't have any impact on the hiring of that particular individual, the county, like 30,000 individuals, I don't believe that individuals should be precluded from doing that. As far as the organization is concerned, just like the Boys Club and the YMCA and the YWCA and all these organizations that provide services, that's what we do. We serve some of the hardest to serve areas in Miami-Dade.
That's the Optimist?
That's the Optimist Club. Mm-hmm. We're in public housing in West Perrine.
What do you do there?
I'm executive director.
Okay, so you run
I run the
entire
operation,
organization.
right.
Okay.
We are in the housing development in West Perrine, in Goose, in Naranja, down in Homestead in Florida City. So we work with some of the most difficult populations, in the county. And again, what we do are the same things that the boys clubs and the YMCAs do. After school too, job training for children, parenting skill programs, educational program that we operate. Those are the kind of things that we provide to the community. And we've been there for close to 40 years now. And the bottom line is that during the time that we've been there, others always talk about wanting to come and do something in the neighborhood, but they hadn't come. We've been there, and we're going to continue to be there because we want to provide services to the community. And again, we're no different than the YMCA, the Boys Club, and all these other nonprofit groups out here that get much more money from the county than we get. And so again, I feel good about what we've done, and as long as I'm not involved in the process, I don't have a conflict that's been cleared through the Ethics Commission, then I don't see, that is a problem. We're just trying to provide services to a community that really needs services.
Okay.
I do have a comment. Even though it's been cleared, I think that there are no other executive directors from any of these other organizations on the commission. So even though it's been cleared, it doesn't appear right.
Thank you.
That's a shot across the bow.
Oh, actually, the shot across the ball comes
That's
now.
what I hear. That's what I hear.
We're running a little bit over, but we started a little bit later, so I think that the the ghost of Norman Bremen is not in the room, but I think it wouldn't go without saying to talk about, Mr. Bremen has been trying very hard to get some reforms, and sometimes people don't agree with him, sometimes people do agree with him, sometimes people don't like the way he approaches doing it. But it's no secret that he's supporting you. It's no secret that he wants you out. And I'd like to hear a little bit about what the dynamic is there.
I'd like to mention that Mr. Bremen, I've met once, and he is sponsoring me. His sponsorship is a contribution that several of his entities, his organizations have done. He does no business with the county, and if you look at the list of my contributors, it's totally grassroots, people who have no business with the county. They're not lobbyists or special interest groups. So there's a tremendous difference.
Thank you.
Sponsoring you. I mean, those were
55.
Those were your words. He is sponsoring you.
Well,
and anybody who knows how Norman Bremen operates knows that if Norman Bremen is sponsoring you, that Norman Bremen owns you. That he is going to.
I beg your pardon. I'm totally offended by that. Nobody owns me.
Dictate
and you,
how you.
Let him finish,
How
please.
can you say that?
May I continue?
Just finish.
May I continue? Everybody knows how Norman Bremen operates in this community, okay? He's a bully, and at the end of the day, those individuals who he is supporting, he fully expects those individuals to carry his water, to carry out his policies and his positions. And if you're not going to do that, then he'll probably turn around and want to try to recall you. So that's how he operates, and everybody in this community knows how he operates. So to sit here and say that, you're going to receive sponsorship, as you put it, from Norman Bremen, and you're not going to feel any allegiance to carrying out his agenda, I just don't see it. It doesn't operate that way in the real world.
I have been an advocate in the community for 15 years. I have put hundreds and thousands of hours as president of Las Palmas with no salary, no compensation for my expenses, for my time. As president, I resigned last month when I decided to enter this race from the
That's a
Farm Bureau.
homeowners association?
From a homeowners association.
Las Palmas?
Las Palmas.
Okay.
From the Farm Bureau. This encompassed about 40 hours of my time with no compensation whatsoever. No compensation for my time, no salary involved. That's the kind of individual I am. And if I accepted an endorsement from Mr. Bremen, it was because he knew who I was, integrity, full integrity, which is what I want to bring to the county. I am not for sale, and a $5,500 contribution does not match almost $200,000 that you have received from lobbyists and the people you are supporting on these projects.
Well, at least there are a lot of different voices in the room. In your case, there's only one voice in the room. And by the way, Las Palmas, forming 8.5 square mile, who was the person that sponsored the legislation to make that change?
This problem has come
Who was the person that sponsored that legislation, Ms. Pena?
for change. What change?
To change the name of 8.5 square
change
miles
the
to
name?
Las Palmas.
You did, and
Okay,
I
thank you.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Changing the name has made no difference.
Thank you.
Changing a name, changing the name of an area.
Okay. All right.
When we have the issues that we have,
Okay.
I knew this would bring out a lot of stuff.
well,
I've left it.
let's leave it at that.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.